I'm going live uh, outside. Looking forward to just telling you a little bit about uh, what's happening right now in my life right now a little bit, and what's happening with mortgages. So with that, we're going to start here, up here, just near York Park, and we're just going to take a walk. But one of the main things I wanted to chat about today was what happens with your mortgage in a health crisis, and how does that affect what's happening with your move and your mortgage and all that. And it's really important to be able to get that all set up as you're um, making your move, because an unexpected health crisis, as I personally know, can really affect what can happen with your financing and your approval and how that's all going to pan out. As you probably have seen on my channel, I have mentioned that 10 years ago today, I had a cardiac arrest. And I'll tell you a little bit about that a little later. But essentially, I was hospitalized for a little while. And because of that, lost a lot of my income. And with that, being self-employed, um, you know, not there's no bank that really would look at me if I was in the middle of doing a move. But say you were on long-term disability, for example, and you had a health crisis and you had some disability benefits, and long-term disability ended up taking care of you and giving you benefits that you could use for your income. For that, you can still get a mortgage. The financing company or the lender or your bank will typically need a letter confirming your disability income, that it's permanent, and how much you're receiving per month. They'll also need some bank statements just confirming the deposits of your long-term disability income, and that will help get you that financing that you need. So that's long-term disability. For short-term disability, that's a little bit different. If you have disability benefits and you end up having a health crisis that puts you into short-term disability, then what the bank's going to need for that specifically is a letter confirming you're on short-term disability from the disability provider, plus a letter from your employer confirming when you're scheduled to return to work. And that can be a little bit difficult, especially if your doctor has not determined that you can go back to work just yet, because there's not really going to be a return date that you can mention in the work letter. However, we have had situations where the doctor anticipates a return to work date of X and X. Let's say your disability ends up being for a longer period of time, because the doctor can always make those calls down the road. So short-term disability, we need that return to work letter. Long-term disability, we need that confirmation that the disability income is permanent. The difference with the two is that for long-term disability, we can actually use your disability income itself, and sometimes you get CPP disability as well. We can add that on to top it up. But for short-term disability, we would need to use your return to work income, and typically the lender or bank will want to see you return to work within 3 months. So that's something to consider there. Now, looking at it, if you're self-employed, how does that work? And that's where I ended up being when I ended up having a cardiac arrest, and could not go to work for a number of months because I was hospitalized, had to go for open heart surgery, had to get a defibrillator, pacemaker implanted, all that kind of stuff, right? So there's no way I could work during that time. And I didn't have any disability benefits because I was self-employed. So when you're self-employed and don't have disability benefits, you're kind of stuck on your own. And if you're in the middle of moving, what's going to happen to your mortgage approval? Well, it's not going to go anywhere. The bank will not be able to fund the mortgage without showing any income from your self-employed business. And that's the situation I was stuck in 10 years ago. The income stopped and I wasn't able to work and I didn't have disability benefits because I wasn't employed. I was self employed. And that's something that can really put a snag into your move if you're selling your home and buying a new home. So that happens. Typically, the lender or bank will tell us, well, you need to actually uh, postpone your move, or you can't do it right now, or you'll have to get a co-signer. And in those situations, it can get really difficult to set that up because not everyone's going to want to co-sign with you. Maybe you don't have family, but if you have family or friends that can co-sign on your mortgage, then that can help get everything done. And if you're self-employed and don't have those benefits, the short-term disability or long-term disability benefits, that can help you get that move done and uh, set up that way. So again, just to review, if you have long-term disability, we can use your long-term disability. We just need a letter from the disability provider stating the disability benefits are permanent, and we can use that specific income. If you're on short-term disability, then we need to confirm your disability benefits as well as confirm with your employer with a letter stating the return to work date or anticipated return to work date that your doctor has given you. And we can do it that way. But as I said, if you're self-employed like I was 10 years ago, you'll need to make alternative arrangements because the lender won't be able to use any disability income and you won't be able to rely on your self-employed history. You'll have to get a co-signer or you'll have to get a family member to even possibly gift you the money to buy that home. And then once you're back to work, for me, it took about 6 months to really get back to work after my cardiac arrest. You would need to then refinance your home to pay that family member back the funds after they use their savings to buy that home. Now, that's a very extreme situation, but it can be done that way. So anyway, so that's how an unexpected medical crisis can actually affect your home purchase. It can either stop it in its tracks, or we need to look at all these different items when you're looking at still going ahead with your move and working out the details on your financing. So if you have any questions, pop them in the chat, or you can email me personally after this show is done. But just give you an update now of the mortgage market, what's happening there. Well, I know the 5-year bond yield has been dropping significantly here over the last few months. We're down at 2.9%. That brings fixed rates even lower than they were previously. Fixed rates right now are around 4.5%, and it's really allowing a lot of buyers to get into the market and afford that much more home before where they were 5.5%. The CDOR rate's currently sitting at 5.03%, and that's staying steady, and we're not really seeing any movement on that. And that actually is a specific metric that I use to see if variable rates are competitive or not. So right now, because of where it's sitting at, I don't know if variable rates are very competitive or not. So something to consider. The jobs market's showing a 0.2 increase from the prior month. So jobs are still increasing, and that's putting a lot of positivity into the market. And if the jobs are increasing, the bank's not really going to not decrease their rates anytime soon. Canadian inflation is currently sitting at 4.3%, which is great. It's down now. Still very high, but it is down compared to where it was before. U.S. inflation numbers just came out actually this week, 4.9%. That's down from 5%, so that's really good news. And the average national house price is up 4% month over month at $686,371. So really good news for the average national house price. And, you know, as the national house prices are going up, the Bank of Canada is not really going to decrease rates anytime soon. I have a feeling the Bank of Canada, which has its next rate announcement on June 7th, will decrease its rate, will probably hold rates steady with inflation coming down, jobs still positive, and price growth still positive. And with that, I think that um, we won't see any rate decreases anytime soon because of that. And with that, if you're looking to see the Bank of Canada decrease its rates, probably won't happen until the end of this year or early next year. That's what I'm seeing. That's what a lot of my coworkers and associates are saying, is rates will not really come down until late this year. So late being November, December, or early next year being January, February, March. Once the Bank of Canada decreases rates, that's really going to bring down the variable rate and stimulate the housing economy even further. As I mentioned, the houses did go up 4% month over month from last month. The national house price average did go up to 686,000. And with that, good news for all homeowners across Canada. So those are the mortgage stats, the updates for this week. And just to kind of go over what I was speaking about earlier in the program about what happens when an unexpected health crisis hits your family and you're moving, that's really going to affect the mortgage affordability. Again, if you have long-term disability, the lender will want to see confirmation of your long-term disability through the disability payments. And if you have short-term disability, the lender will want to see a return to work letter stating that the doctor's anticipated return to work date. And if you're self-employed, don't have any benefits, then you might have to get a co-signer or look at some other options. But anyway, 10 years ago today, where I wanted to show you. So right here behind me on the street here, I was crossing the street here 10 years ago today, and I ended up having a cardiac arrest right here where I'm standing, just behind me. And 10 years ago today, my heart had stopped for about 15 minutes and had EMS and firefighters come here, give me CPR, and save my life. They resuscitated me. So it's kind of a emotional spot for me today as I stand here where this happened, because my life was turned upside down. I was working self-employed as a mortgage broker at that time as well, and ended up being rushed to Aurelia Soldiers Memorial Hospital here right in the city, and then was there for a few hours before moving to Toronto General Hospital for the next few months. And while that all happened, I had, because I was self-employed, my income stopped, had no benefits, had to figure things out that way. But I had a small child, still now he's 10, but he was about 6 months old at the time. And I had open heart surgery, I had a pacemaker put in, I had a defibrillator put in, I had a heart valve replaced at that time. But that all happened right here with the cardiac arrest right behind me here on the street there I was crossing. And if I had been moving and buying a house at that time in the middle of that, say I just put an offer on the place, I wouldn't have been able to get a mortgage because the bank would have seen that my income had stopped. And because self-employed folks don't have benefits, they really don't have any options at that time to make happen. They would have to get a co-sign. They would have to get money from family to kind of make up the difference of what they could afford. My wife at the time was not really working any significant means at that time either. So I was the breadwinner, and that was kind of difficult at that time, being in that situation. But luckily, I had friends, family, and church friends, and just everybody supported us at that time to get through that moment. We had friends mowing our lawn, picking up our mail, and it was a good time. So that's right here, Park Street in Calverley is where that happened. And a few years later, actually, I ended up moving to Park Street, just down the street here, and now my home office window points at where this all happened. So it's nice to be able to reflect and be grateful that I am alive. I have this bonus decade given to me since that all happened, and I've had a daughter since then, and it's given me a lot to consider and a lot to be thankful for. And I thank God every day that I'm around uh, for another decade and hopefully for another decade more as my ticker still ticks on. But if you have any questions about what I've talked about today, any of the mortgage information, how that affects your purchase when you're moving, reach out to me. I've been in the business now for 13 years. And as your mortgage broker, I can help you get set up and looking towards buying a home that way. So with that, that's all for now. I'm going to head back to my home office. It's just back up the street here. Wanted to take you on a little walk today, and we'll talk to you all later. Thanks for